Now for Sonic and the Black Knight. We start on one of the very few cutscenes with actual presentation to it. The wizard Merlina summons Sonic with a slightly altered variation of the Eraser Djinn's Arabic prayer. A prayer that's apparently loosely translated to summoning Satan. So it's pretty weird that they use that phrase in particular. How would Sonic be the equivalent of Satan in this universe? And why did Merlina know an Arabic chant when she's not Arabic? I guess it came from Arabia, but was passed down through generations after people left Arabia. How did she even know about Sonic when he lives outside of the book? In order for people to have learned about Sonic and wrote down info about him in her universe, people must have escaped the book and ventured around Sonic's world recently, and then came back to the book to write about him. I guess wizards left the book and talked about their experiences to their family and Thanksgiving. After all, I can't believe that the people in our world would have been able to prophesize about a hedgehog that doesn't even exist in their universe. And yay, Sonic is eating a chili dog, making it canon that's his favorite food. And he finishes it way too fast to be logical. The only problem with him eating chili dogs is that overusing it implies that he eats nothing else. But that can't be true, or he wouldn't be able to stay alive.
Oh, I get it. No problem.
Sonic's supposed to be confident, but it's still annoying to hear such a smug line of his. And the villain just stands there for several seconds until Merlina used her staff to whip herself and Sonic away in a tornado. Why didn't she do that and then summon Sonic? And the knights look like Sonic's friends, because it's a parallel universe situation. I like that Knuckles briefly hesitates to try to kill somebody. And now I have to assume that Merlina isn't violent, or she's just too stupid to realize how lethal teleportation power could be, because she could have just warped something into King Arthur and telefragged him to death. Not to mention all the other powers that you'd think wizards would have. I picture wizards as being practically omnipotent. But maybe that's not how wizards usually are. I just grew up on Wizards of Waverly Place. Sonic complains to Merlina that he could have stopped the king. Merlina gives him exposition. With how fast he is, shouldn't she have realized he could have just gone to get some rope and tied him up in seconds? Sonic's had speed his entire life, so you'd think he would have immediately thought of that. Sonic points out the king seemed different in the stories. Merlina gives exposition. Why did the Lady of the Lake give Arthur that scabbard knowing it was evil? How did she not know it was going to make that happen? I guess even the Lady of the Lake is limited in her power, which is why she can't just warp to the scabbard and uncurse it. And also, Merlina can't just warp to the scabbard and uncurse it. Sonic has a pretty insensitive remark here.
This'll be cool. It'll be like Halloween all year long.
Merlina has to summon a dragon, yet it's the ruler of the lake already? You'd think the ruler of the lake would already be there. Maybe it was off going to the bathroom.
You shall forever be the worst of knights, slayer of kings.
Guess I can't be the hero every time.
I actually love that line of his, because it's such an establishing character moment. I'm just confused as to why he's suddenly okay with killing evil villains now. Why not Eggman then? It took a long time for me to figure it out. For the longest time, I always assumed he was opposed to killing, and that's why he didn't kill Eggman in the first game. The truth is, he actually kills his enemies all the time in the games. And even if it's usually something he has to do, it still says something about him that he doesn't even hesitate. The truth is, he'll kill if it's necessary, and not even care. But he doesn't like to do it. So the reason he lets Eggman run away from him and get into his Eggmobile in Sonic 1, it's because he doesn't want to feel bad about beating him up. Because he doesn't have to do that. And nobody thought back to this game when he started killing enemies like the Bio-Lizard and Black Arms no problem. Because Eggman's the main villain of the series, so it makes sense meta-wise that he doesn't kill Eggman. And it makes sense meta-wise that he kills his villains in the games because it's a video game character. In video games, you're killing your enemies 24/7, and the story never dwells on it after he kills his enemies. It's really baffling to me that some people will look at this line and think he doesn't think of himself as a hero. The very fact that he says the hero every time means that most of the time he does know he's a hero because he's not delusional that he isn't a hero. The only reason it would make sense for someone to think they're not a hero despite doing heroic things is if they're a bad guy. Eggman's not a hero just because he helped save the world in SA2, because usually he's evil. He only helps save the world for his own self-interest. It's not like Sonic thinks of himself that way. He'd have to be delusional to think he's not compassionate. If the line was saying that he never thinks of himself as a hero, he would just say that. It's amazing how certain fans can look at this line and get the exact opposite of what it's trying to tell you. It's saying that it's fine with being seen as the villain if he does the right thing. You think you'd ask Mileena, why can't I just run around him and tie him up with a rope? And then bring him to a jail cell. And then she should have been written to say, you have to kill him or I'm not gonna warp you home. I hate that the sword calls him a squire for no reason. He doesn't know anything about Sonic. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a teenage Mobian and an adult Mobian. So how does he know he's just a squire? He's so condescending of Sonic for no reason. Mileena worked perfectly fine as someone talking to Sonic, so why didn't you just stick with her? At least Sonic calls him out on it. It seems like a good thing at first, but it just drags out their interaction. I like the fact that he calls him out on it, but not the idea of Caliburn continuing to be rude to him right after he's called out on it. It really would have been a lot better if we didn't have Caliburn talk. Merlina's a wizard. I'm pretty sure she's capable of turning herself into a ring and staying with Sonic. I like her a lot more. She actually compliments Sonic. We never do see him go into a book to get here, which is something I like about this game. It's a lot less confusing. Sonic's accused of lacking proper fighting skills after he effortlessly beat the main villain in a fight at the start of the game. At least Sonic tells him off, but why does he think he's right? If he wasn't a sad excuse for a teacher, he'd be better at sword fighting by this point. It's so weird. Why would you have him make the main villain of the game retreat after a fight with him at the start of the game? It makes him look like the most incompetent villain ever. Granted, you fought Eggman in the classic games. The fact that he lost every time didn't make him the most incompetent villain ever. It was his mechas that weren't competent, and that could be explained as him underestimating Sonic. But this guy fights you basically the same way both times. You could assume he's holding back out of arrogance, but he's basically got no reason to when he's faced with someone extremely fast. I hate that he's called Knave the Hedgehog. It's a pathetic attempt at humor. And wasn't he called a squire before? Why Knave all of a sudden? I'm supposed to just assume it makes sense that being in a rock blunts the edge of a sword. You'd think it would have instantly become blunt if that was the logic. It has to be a magical spell. Sonic doesn't want to be called a gentleman. He acted like a gentleman to Shara. He talks informally. I don't think he would care for stuck-up rules about table manners. But he still acts like a gentleman to certain people. And the way Mileena complains just makes her look emo. I still feel sorry for her though. She says she'll be recognized in town, which is why she doesn't accompany Sonic. You'd think wizards would be able to shapeshift. I guess Sword in the Stone has really lame wizards. You'd think if she could summon a dragon, she'd be able to change her appearance. I guess she summoned it by teleporting it there. Sonic doesn't learn his lesson from Secret Rings and not call him Tails. There's no reason Tails would be there. And he doesn't show any offense or any real reaction to being called Tails. even though you think you'd find it insulting. Screw you, Caliburn. Caliburn's just mean-spirited to Sonic. Of course, Tails is surprised and delighted at the sword talking, but doesn't ask why. You'd think he'd be curious. I like that he's actually useful in this game. Having a character constantly insult Sonic isn't necessarily bad, but you have to have him insult him for an actual problem he has. The next boss fight is with Shadow. His Shadow theme from SC2 plays, and I like that it never progresses past the good part. I like how Sonic jokes around here. Caliburn infuriates me, and Shadow calls him that afterwards, in either a moment of dry wit or obliviousness that you'd think he'd know better. The reason he's the first knight you fight is that he's pathetically easy, despite the fact that he's hyped up to be the strongest of the knights. Shadow looks the way he does because of Black Doom DNA, which gives him his Chaos Control. How does he not have Chaos Control? If he does, why doesn't he use it and win easily? I have to assume either he doesn't know he has Chaos Control, or he somehow thinks it's dishonorable to use it. He must have been made by a wizard version of Gerald. One of them looking like Blaze is just as confusing, since Blaze is from another dimension. So it has to be that this version of Blaze stepped through a portal, not knowing it would send her to another world and trap her there, and cause her to get raised to be a knight, leaving her dimension without a princess. So there's multiple soul dimensions. The sword asks Sonic why he didn't kill Shadow, and Sonic says what's the big deal, rather than angrily calling him out on being bloodthirsty for the sake of it. The fact that he kills King Arthur in this game is proof that he's okay with killing, so it really sucks that he isn't written to explain himself. I mean, the fact that it might not be in character for him to explain himself doesn't matter, because the fanbase clearly needs it explained to them. Because IDW divided the fanbase by having Sonic say he'd never kill anyone. So he should have explained the obvious fact that he didn't kill Shadow because he didn't have to. He meets the Lady of the Lake and almost runs away from her because she looks like Amy. To be fair, every time she met a character that looked like one of his friends, he acted just like his friend. So it makes perfect sense that he would assume the Lady of the Lake would act like Amy. Sonic puts his arm around her, and then the sword insults him for not being polite, even though he is being polite by his standards. Amy shows guilt at giving King Arthur the scabbard, so good, that was addressed. She has 3 tests for Sonic. Also, they apparently pronounced the Lady of the Lake's name wrong. But I don't blame them, because how the hell are you supposed to know how to pronounce a name spelled like that? A hideous imp girl who obviously has Amy's voice says when, and I always hate when characters who are crying say that, because nobody who cries says that. So it takes me out of the story, especially since none of the characters ask why they talk like that. I don't know why the townspeople are ugly imps. Apparently, they want them to feel like they belong to the woods. Wouldn't making them look like forest animals work better? Combine this with practically no humans in Sonic and the Secret Rings. I think the real reason is they wanted to appeal to fanboys who hated humans in Sonic. Caliburn, the wiser one in the right, insults Sonic for wanting to help her. He better get called out on this or admit he was wrong. Well, guess what? He doesn't! Sonic says he plays by his own rules. That's a great line for his character. He should also explain that he has perfect confidence in his speed. So it doesn't even have to be about preferring to help a kid over doing whatever it takes to get home. Even if not making it to Amy in time traps him in this universe forever. Although Merlina could always warp him home regardless. So maybe that just didn't occur to him. Besides, bakers can't be choosers. Even if he doesn't make it there in time, what's she gonna do? Say, oh well, I guess King Arthur will never be defeated. There's no reason she couldn't just let him do the test again.
You look just like this knucklehead I know.
Sonic, you're a dick. He literally talks like a bully here. If Sonic wasn't trying to pick a fight with him, why did he insult him? What an idiot.